Good afternoon and welcome to each and every one of you to a special broadcast here on Abee Chunes Radio. Today on the program, as you look in the screen, is myself, Roshan, and a very well-known individual in our community, Mr. Romeo Hitlal, who is joining us here as well. Today, we are in conversation with Mr. Bharrat Jagdeo, the Honorable and His Excellence, Vice President of the Republic of Guyana, who was born on January 23rd, 1963, in the quiet village of Unity, Mahaica, located in Region 4. Prior to his appointment as Vice President in the current administration of President Dr. Infant Ali, Mr. Jagdeo held office of the Minister of Finance before being elected to serve as the President of Guyana from August 11th, 1999 to December 3rd, 2011. He was the first head of state to relinquish office in accordance with the two-term limit he signed into law during his presidency. It is with great honor today that we bring on with us today His Excellency Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo. I will also bring on the microphone Romeo, who will offer his first introductory word before we turn to our Vice President.
Thank you, Roshan, and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to the world. We have with us His Excellency, the Vice President, Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo, and he's here to answer the questions that we have been asked. People have been asking us throughout the diaspora here in the U.S. and also around the world. And I know it's going to be a good discussion, and we're looking forward for His Excellency to answer most of the questions and go into details of what's happening with the different things in Guyana and also with the diaspora. So again, I want to welcome Dr. Bharrat Jagdeo, the Vice President of Guyana, to this live Zoom program on Abee Chunes. Dr. Jagdeo, welcome.
Thank you very much. Let me say to your viewers that I'm very pleased to be on the program, and I hope that all the questions that people have been raising from the diaspora through various medium or media, that you get an opportunity to ask these questions today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jagdeo. And we want to start off first. We want to start the first question today. I know Roshan just introduced you when he mentioned a couple of your background, but we want the people want to know. Tell us a little bit about Bharrat Jagdeo. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into the hard questions.
I don't like speaking too much about myself, and I think I've been in public life for quite a while, so a lot of people already know me. So a lot that they know about me, they're just through the public medium, often hostile to us, is negative, and therefore a lot of people don't really know me personally. But my entire life has been dedicated to public service, and if I believe that I'm doing the right thing for the good of the people of our country, then I withstand all the criticism. So APNU has a special place in hell for me. The Kaichor News has an even colder place in hell for me. I don't bother too much with them once I'm convinced that what I'm working for is our people, all of our people. Because you can never really get everyone to see your vision and what you're trying to achieve. And some maliciously try to misrepresent you. So a lot of people who know me, and I mean stranger to the public, like in the diaspora and here, know what I stand for.
That's correct. And yes, in the diaspora, we know definitely what you stand for. And also in Guyana, a lot of people, the whole country know what you stand for. So let's go into some serious business now. Roche, I know we have a lot of questions.
Quite a lot came in, so I'm not sure if we will be able to cover all the questions, but what we can tell you that we will get to as much as we can, and whatever we miss, we'll forward it on, and hopefully, we can get a response to them as well.
Definitely.
But Romeo, what a lot of people don't know about the vice president is that he holds number of global leadership position in the areas of sustainable development, climate change, and green energy. And I think to have that kind of a portfolio of a leader in our country in this time of age is very important.
Definitely. So some serious question now, Dr. Jagdeo. So we have one question here. We have a question from one of the viewers from the group, the PPP group chat. What is your government position on the Rodney King Commission inquiry, which the APNU AFC government aborted just as they came into office in 2015?
Oh, it's not the Rodney King. It's Walter Rodney, I think you wanted to say.
Walter Rodney, yeah.
Walter Rodney, yes. Well, we believe that Walter Rodney was killed by the PNC. And the Commission of Inquiry, which was an international commission of inquiry, confirmed that he was killed by the PNC, and that the senior leadership of that party, including the Prime Minister then, knew of the killing. And this vindicated not just the family, but also a generation of young Guyanese who were distraught because of his killing for all that he represented for Guyana. Many people did not know that Walter Rodney worked closely with the People's Progressive Party, because at that time we were all struggling to get rid of a dictatorship. And a significant part of the Commission of Inquiry was understanding the era in which we lived. Now, a lot of the older folks in the diaspora, maybe the young ones are not so aware of this, but a lot of the older folks in the diaspora will understand what we mean, because they had to flee Guyana in that period of repression. And one would have thought that after 28 years of undemocratic rule, including assassination of political opponents like Walter Rodney, that party would have changed when they got into power in 2015. The young generation saw exactly that they have not changed one bit, that the party is essentially, inherently undemocratic and racist, although they complain about racism all the time. That's their new tune. That has always been their tune. It's a facade, a veneer to avoid a detailed examination of that party and their own acts. They use this as a diversion by claiming others are racist. So Walter Rodney, we felt vindicated. They were not very happy with the Commission of Inquiry. They terminated it. But as you saw today, the court, because Donald Rodney was pardoned, they had trumped up charges against him, but he wanted the court to vindicate him, and the court did that today. After a long period, they had removed the sign from the Walter Rodney archive. When I was president, we rebuilt the archive and we named it after Walter Rodney. Correct. They removed that sign, we restored the sign. So that would, because he was a great scholar and a great historian, and we thought it fitting that the National Archives should be named after him.
Great.
So we are putting together an era of where sad things happen to our country. Hopefully, we're bringing a closure to a lot of these issues.
Well, thank you for that answer to that question that someone had proposed there. Roche, I know we have another question there from the chat also. Before you go into your question, Roche, we have, so Dr. Jagdeo, this is on housing. A lot of people in the diaspora is complaining that they're finding it hard to regain their property in Guyana. And is there an easier way, because since we're in the 21st century, is there any way that they can go online and look for their property or inquire about their property, or do they have to come to Guyana to do this? What is your take on this?
So clearly, the system has to evolve, and we had a huge challenge when Dr. Jagan got into office. At that time, they were processing like 300 titles a year, transports. They call them transporting. So 300 transports a year in a country where you had 60,000 backlog that people were waiting to have their transport transferred to people who had bought properties.
Correct.
And we gave out over 100,000 house lots. So that would have been 160,000, and you're doing 300 a year. So we introduced a new system for titles, and that managed with improvement in both systems, the transport system and the titling system, that is a faster system. We managed to get to about 12 to 15,000 transfers per year. Now, we still have a lot of problems with the law, and we have a lot of corruption. And people capitalize on the limited access to information to sell other people's properties, etc. As you saw recently in the CCJ ruling, they urged Guyana to make some amendments to its laws, which the Attorney General, we have already discussed that, and he plans to make the change. So clearly now, especially in light of the development of the oil and gas sector, the property market has to evolve into a business. We don't have legislation for condos, for co-ops, for all of these things. And people are going to be constructing these because we've made it clear that we're carving out the rental market in the oil and gas industry for Guyanese.
Right.
So that if we can't build the FPSO and the complex parts of the oil and gas industry, our people must benefit from rentals. And the rentals are substantial, and the market is growing. And so we have to convert that into a business model. So right now, there's a lot of work being done to update the laws. I suspect soon we may have to put the property register online. I know, like you have in the US, you can probably search there, etc. All of these are part of the reform plan.
So everything is in plans, and eventually it's going to come out.
Yeah. And work has started already on this.
Great. So I hope for the listeners.
There's a sense of urgency now because of what's happening. There's a boom in the property market.
Yes.
And with a renewed confidence in the PDP returning to office, too, a lot of investment are taking place.
Yes, definitely. And speaking of investment, we have a few questions on that, but we'll go into Roche. I know you have some questions coming in, Roche. So you want to address that one?
Sure. So since we're in that same space, quite a few different categories of question came. This one here came from multiple citizens, and the question is, dear Mr. President, I have some concern. Some businesses in the construction sector increasing building material. For example, 5/8 steel, which would have cost $1,400 a length, are now have gone up to $2,200 a length. They have seen many companies taking advantage of Guyanese people that are looking to build in their new homes. So I guess, Dr. Bharrat, they're talking about price gouging, right?
There are several things happening here at the same time. So first of all, because with the boom in construction, although we are still experiencing the COVID, we're in the middle of the pandemic. There is a massive upsurge in construction and economic activities in Guyana. And once we emerge from this, it's going to explode. So the government has a huge program, and then the private sector, including people building their own homes, but more commercial type buildings, everything. So the demand for material has gone up, from steel, sand, cement, everything, almost everything has gone. So with the demand going up and the supply being limited, what will happen? The next thing is price movement upwards. So some of it is because of that. Now, the only way we can resolve this is by increasing the supply to the market. So, for example, stone. We don't have enough stone to construct roads, much less for private investment. So we have just decided to look at open up 3 worlds on which people can import stone and land these at a small fee so that we can increase the supply to the market. We've just removed the VAT, the import duty. We reduced it from 15% to 5% for cement, industrial grade cement, in the last budget. In the budget prior to that one, we removed the VAT on construction material just to assist with the market moving forward. But there is a real problem now because of the increase in freight, that is driving some price movement upwards. And freight from China, a 40-foot container was like maybe $3,000 US. Because of the pandemic, not many containers are going back. Now it's upwards of $10,000 just for freight for 40-foot container. So there are some global factors causing this. There are some supply problems causing this. There is an increase in demand that's causing this. But we are paying close attention to it to see that we can address most of these factors that are within our control to keep the prices affordable so that especially small people would have a chance to construct. They would not be priced out of the market.
Yes, thank you for addressing that. And the same gentleman, Ramesh Singh, who submitted that question, said, and you just touched on the VAT that was removed. How would they go about? They said that. So the second part of his question was, there are some places where they went to purchase construction material and they were not charged VAT, but there are some businesses who are still charging VAT for construction material. How would they be able to address that?
Yeah, well, the thing is that they have to go through the list of the construction material, check what the ones that were, because there were several that were increased by AFNI. They moved them from zero rated to exempt category. That meant the importer could not claim the VAT back, and therefore they passed it on in higher prices. So what we did, we moved them back into the zero rated category. So this gentleman should check the list at the Ministry of Finance of all. You can look at the budget and see all the items that were zero rated. And should anyone be charging him VAT on these items that were zero rated, could file a complaint to any one of us or the GRA.
Very good. Thank you. And I will pass along that back to the gentleman. There have been quite a few who have responded to this question. It's a totally different category. It is regarding the entertainment. Received this question from a few artists in Guyana and also from the diaspora and Terry G as well, asking, is there any plan with the government in Guyana to support copyright law for singers and artists out of Guyana? And the reason they're asking that question is it's a potential resource for entertainers out of Guyana to make some money as well from that.
And this question has been a very contentious one for many years because a lot of our people they watch, they go to the video stores, they rent these movies, they books and stuff like that. So because a lot of poor people also benefit from some of these things. So we made it clear that music and content produced in Guyana, we're prepared to protect, as you pointed out. But we're not gonna, and I really shouldn't be saying this much, we're not gonna lose any sleep much if somebody downloads a movie from some site and watch it. Okay, the producer elsewhere. I shouldn't be really saying this too much because we shouldn't encourage it, but I don't lose sleep over that. But with Guyanese artists, etc., we have a duty, obligation to protect them. And so we had some discussions once with the people who were carrying these, like running these music stores and stuff, not to carry people local music, and people can buy that. So we can go down that route, protecting locally produced content.
Correct. And I think that's where that question was heading, with locally produced content out of Guyana.
Real too about it. The guys sit in Linden or in Sugar State and they're watching a movie, a pirated movie. Should we go run after them now? We have bigger tasks of catching other criminals and stuff like that.
Correct. Is there any, so those content that are produced out of Guyana, like Trinidad, for example, Trinidad has a support system to encourage their artists and support the artists through the medias to make sure that their content that are produced out of Guyana are being promoted and aired in Guyana as well. Is that something you think would be part of the initiative in that for the government as well?
Yeah, other countries have walked this delicate path, between the two. So we have to definitely learn from the experience of Trinidad, etc. But as I said before, I'm all for protecting locally produced content.
Thank you so much for addressing that. I'll be going back to Romeo. I know he have quite some question coming in, but I'm going to ask you one short little question first, because a very important day is coming up for us, May 5th, which is a very, very important day for our country, Guyana, as well. And the question is the Highbury site that is currently, the monument that is currently in Guyana. That site has not been sort of taken care of or anything has been done to it. Do you think that is on the agenda, for possible tourism to that site, making that site...
I think in this period with COVID and everything, we try to limit gatherings for any activity. So you may not see massive activities this year, whether it's for Easter or Pagua or even Eid. And also we try to limit numbers of people, but definitely I know we have a very, the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Culture has all of these things, not just the sports facilities, but also our national monuments. But those are historic sites and they deserve to be preserved and promoted.
All right, I'm going to hand over to Romeo.
One of the questions that we have from the chat also, can we expect a collaboration between the Guyana Police Force and the NYPD on police statistics, training, and other areas, like, for example, like Trinidad?
I think there was some collaboration that I know of because I saw exchanges and stuff. So we will only promote the growth of that. I believe it was a good initiative and it should be promoted, and not just with people in New York, but wherever we have police departments that we want to work with, especially if we have people from the diaspora in these departments. That's a welcome connection with Guyana and our police force.
Great. So I hope that listener is listening because they're part of the NYPD. The next question we have is Guyana on track to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals?
Yeah, these goals are there, and often I always have problems with the UN passing resolutions and establishing goals, and often countries, including the developed world, signing off to these goals. And then what happens? They take away your means of achieving this, because many countries in the developing world don't have the financial resources to achieve those sustainable development goals, because they require heavy investments in infrastructure, particularly the social type infrastructure. Now, what has happened is that the capacity of those countries has been further diminished and ravaged because of COVID. So I know in the Caribbean how fiscally stressed these countries are. I talked to Prime Minister Motley a lot and the other leaders in the region, and we're trying to carve out a special place in the multilateral financial institution to get enough money just to keep a lot of the countries afloat, much less achieving some of the goals. So you're going to have a period of reversal of these goals globally because of the pandemic. In Guyana's case, on the other hand, we have been fortunate because, first of all, we did a lot of heavy lifting in the early years. When we were a fiscally stressed country and heavily indebted, we were using at one stage 153% of revenue to pay debts. By the time we left office, it came down to about 5% of revenue, because we had paid off in excess of $3 billion US, and we had gotten another $3 billion or so written off. Right. So today we are one of the countries with some of the best debt fundamentals, where our debt is less than 50% of GDP. And as our economy grows bigger because of the oil boom, it would fall even further. And then our ability to finance a lot of education and healthcare and social functions have we grown enormously. APNO borrowed heavily, but we can't complain about the past 5 years. We're fixing it. That's what we're spending day and night now in trying to fix the framework, because we can go and complain about all they did. Our job now in government is to fix it. We know they just screwed up things in the last 5 years. So in Guyana's case, yes, I believe we have already achieved quite a few of those goals. We are going to have some challenges, not because money challenges, but other types of challenges in addressing some other goals. For example, infant mortality, maternal mortality. We've had some COVID-related deaths because of the situation in hospital. All of the attention being placed on taking care of people suffering from the pandemic. You've had a slippage in regular services, not just here, but globally. So those are the immediate challenges, but we are on track to achieve those goals.
Since we're speaking about the pandemic and all of that, we have some questions from our viewers over here. They're saying that how safe is it to travel to Guyana with the COVID-19 pandemic that's happening now? And what is your administration doing to contain the COVID-19 spread in Guyana?
So this question about all this, how safe it is to travel to Guyana, it's an age-old question. Well, we have had about, unfortunately, 200 and something deaths, 250 something deaths.
Correct.
And just maybe over 12,000 cases so far. We had to make a conscious challenge right from the beginning, the time we took office, because people don't have great social safety net. They don't have social security payments, etc. Many of them have not shut down the country absolutely in the 5 months period, because that served their interest too, to help them to try to steal elections. But we had to find a balanced way of keeping the economy going, people working, and at the same time taking measures to address the pandemic. Unfortunately, and we're grateful for this, our numbers are not any different than many of those countries that have locked down totally. In fact, our numbers are better than many of those countries that have locked down totally. But our country is functioning, people are going about, etc. We keep urging them. We have a lot of people who don't act responsibly. We keep urging them, but we're not a police society. We can't force people to be responsible all the time. And so we have invested heavily in building our capability at the hospitals. We have already spent an enormous sum of money to bring in vaccines. We're having logistical problems because the developed world is not giving us any vaccine. You know, the US and the others, they're taking all for themselves.
Right.
So we have had to explore other means, and even now transiting, getting the vaccines, the Russian vaccine from Dubai to Guyana is becoming a nightmare, even when you buy it. So we're already vaccinated a significant part of our population. We paid for enough vaccines to do more than half of our adult population, and as soon as we get other sources, we'll pay for the rest to come down. We're rolling out an aggressive vaccination program. We're one of the few countries in the developing countries in the world that is doing this, because the others are simply not getting the vaccine. But this is, so it is safe. People travel all the time back and forth. A lot of people ask me if it's safe to go to New York from the other way around. And also, that is now whether it's safe to come to Guyana. They feel safer in Guyana now than to go up to New York, because they've heard about the enormous numbers of death and stuff like that. Unfortunately, many of our own people I know personally, passed away. It's so sad.
That's correct. Yes, thank you very much for that. So since you're on that same topic of COVID-19, We have a question from a member of the group also. Um, are you guys? Is the government planning to roll out a second stimulus to the country?
Yeah, well, the first budget we passed, that we had 4 weeks to prepare. In fact, they told me that when I said to them we have to get a budget in 4 weeks, that is in August 2nd when we got in. I said before the first week of September, we had to get a budget. And remember, we had not had a budget since 2018. Correct. And they had spent $419.5 billion without any parliamentary oversight. And a lot of money they had already spent for 2020, although illegally so, although we didn't have a budget. Some $160 billion for 2020 alone. So we managed to prepare that budget in 4 weeks and get it passed in less than 2 months in the parliament. And in that budget, we remove taxes or reduce taxes and put in place other incentives that will be equivalent when you annualize it to $40 billion more in people's pockets of tax savings when you annualize it for the full year in 2020.
Wow.
And then in the 2021 budget, we even added to that. So already we see the benefit of this in the economy. And the money that we had given out was not so much a stimulus to the economy, but although it did serve that purpose, the household grants. That was more to assist people with food and stuff like that, incidental. And a lot of people were appreciative of that. So I don't know, we continue with the hamper program, but it's more selective now. It's more selective. Okay. But the stimulus in itself was through the tax measures. That the 7 or 8 billion that we spent on the 25,000 cash grant, that also was spent back in the economy, so it did serve as a stimulus too. But right now, we don't have a second plan immediately because we have not completely rolled out that plan as yet. There were people who filled up a pink form that we now have to go back and reassess and give them the money too. So we'll have to determine whether by the end of the year if we have another program, because logistically it was very difficult to roll out. We had to go to every home in the country. Right. Every home.
So is the government giving out free COVID testing?
Yes, you go into the hospital, you get tested free.
And it's free.
If you want to pay too, they have several sites you can go on and pay, private entities, but you can go into the government, any government facility that is doing the testing and get tested for free.
Okay, because we're getting a lot of people are asking that question because
no, we do that. We brought in the country is doing like upwards of 1,000 tests per day now. Wow. We were doing, like when we got into office, 40, 30, 50 and stuff like that. So you have private providers of the service, but you also have the state providing free testing.
Okay. So a little bit about the opposition. We have some questions here. We've been seeing that the present government, your administration, is saying that they're not going to go into talks with the opposition unless the opposition recognize the government. Where do we stand with that?
Well, the thing is that Harman has said the government is illegitimate.
Correct.
And how do you deal? That's the dilemma. He has a meeting with the president. How could you deal with an illegitimate president, Sit right across the table, and on what basis do you have any discussion about the way forward? Because he believed, well, workly so that we stole the election. when the whole world knows that they were trying to steal the election.
That's correct.
This guy is delusional. They can only rewrite history through Richard Burke and through people and the Sherrod Duncans, etc. You know, for them, the most corrupt people, the criminals, the biggest racists become the heroes in their stories, and they say that about other people. But we have seen what has happened with them. So it's a situation he's backed himself into. He wants to have it both ways. Wants to continue arguing that the government is illegal, etc., and then wants to sit down with the same illegal government. We have had the same dilemma. I, on a program, dealt with the same question. And I had the choice in 2015 to say whether we will continue saying they stole the election, or say, okay, we lost the election, time to rebuild, let's move on. And we took that position.
Right.
That was the only way forward. And we rebuilt, and we are in power today. So it's Harman is utterly useless. The guy goes to press conferences. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He abuses the reporters because he didn't do his homework. You know, I can understand if a reporter is trying to be unfair to you, but you go and make claims of corruption and then you can't substantiate it, you haven't checked it, nothing of the sort. So it's mediocre, amateurish, and the only thing that they focus on is racism. That's all.
All right. Infrastructure in the country. What are your plans for infrastructure in the country? What is the government plan?
Well, I take a long time telling you this, but
let's do the
right
short
now
one.
we have mapped, but I will do it quickly. So we have mapped out several infrastructure that we need to put in place, several bits that we need to put in place to support the vision of an emerging oil and gas economy, but a bigger Guyanese economy generally on the whole, because our aim is not to ensure that the non-oil sector, that is the non-oil economy, grows rapidly too. That means the sugar and rice and manufacturing and tourism. We don't want to fall into the same trap that other countries did when they found oil, that they killed off all the other sectors through the Dutchies. So having outlined that vision, that the economy we will need to support oil and gas, but a non-oil economy too, you have to put in place supporting infrastructure. So right now, we have laid out a route to a 4-lane road, another 4-lane road in Region 3, from the bridge to Parika, another 4-lane road. So you're gonna have the existing road and then 4 more lanes. The bridge is already tendered. That will bring people across a fixed bridge or 4-lane fixed bridge. Okay. We're now building from Mandela Avenue to Eccles 4 lanes. So that will complement the existing 4 lanes. That will be completed before the end of the year. We're financing this from the budget. And then by the end of the year, we hope to start the next project from Ogle, which is another 4-lane going on the East Bank to bypass. We'll give you 12 lanes coming in from the airport, a 4-lane road to the airport, taking the 4-lane up to Mahaika. Then in Berbice, 4 lanes too. We're planning for 4 lanes in the Berbice in Region 6. So these are areas where a lot of our people live. Secondly, power generation. Power has to be crucial for well-being of people. Our people need cheaper power now for domestic purposes. The electricity bill is too high, and for industries. We have mapped out what the demand will be for the next 5 years. And we have come up with an energy mix that involves solar, hydro, and gas-fired power plants to fulfill most of those demands. There are going to be other things too, like maybe a one or two wind power project, etc. That will meet the bulk of the demand. 250 megawatts will come from the gas to energy project. I saw people saying, oh, whether we did the feasibility study, and I said it's a no-brainer. So Christopher Ram said, oh, I was saying people didn't have brain. Well, it is a no-brainer for anybody who has looked at the numbers.
Right.
Now, if we are selling power at 30 US cents per kilowatt hour, one of the highest in the world, we're generating power now at 14 cents per kilowatt hour. That is what GPL is generating now, power. If we can, from the gas project, get power at 6 cents per kilowatt hour, and then that drops to about 4 cents, 4 cents per kilowatt hour. Imagine what we can do. We can cut for immediately the price of energy by half. If you cut the cost of energy by half to your population and to industries and still make a huge profit, then immediately the economy will respond and people's lives will improve. It's a no-brainer. Some of them said, I saw some of the others saying, oh, compare it with solar. Solar can't be compared with gas to power. Gas to power is base load. Solar, you put up the electricity, and you get the sun. If you tie it into the grid, it's fine. The cloud comes over the area, you then have to switch back to fossil fuel. If you have battery storage, it pushes up the cost enormously. And even the batteries, if you have 3 days of cloud cover, the batteries run out, you still have to find the fossil fuel generating plants to kick in. So a lot of these guys are talking off the top of their head, anecdotally. You know, this country runs on anecdote. People don't look at the numbers. It runs on anecdote and gap. You know, Glenn Lyle used to say the same thing about the Marriott. Oh, now it's about the gas, the power plant. Oh, PPP building this, big Bharrat Jagdeo going after this. Our only objective is to get cheaper power to our people. But he used to say that about the Marriott, how I own the Marriott and that it was a white elephant. This is the most profitable Marriott that we have now in this hemisphere. The most profitable Marriott. It wouldn't have been built if we listened to them. The Hope Canal would have never been built. Since Hope was built, we stopped flooding in Region 5 practically and on the East Coast. But they didn't want that done. The Berbice Bridge, same Christopher Ram, all of the others, don't do it, etc. It's not going to work. It's because the people in Berbice would have never had a bridge to drive on. We cannot let these gripers all day long. Gripers, I can understand serious questions about the projects, and we need to be open-minded about people who have genuine concerns and who do this. But they don't have any concern about people. Their bread is well buttered. Glenn Lyle could afford his electricity bill. But you talk to them at the family, the mother in Kanji, who now can't afford to pay electricity. She wants cheaper electricity.
Of course.
These projects will deliver that for our people. So infrastructure power is crucial. We have the airport has to be redone. We they made a mess of it.
Yep.
We are looking at other social and physical infrastructure now So a lot of work on hospitals. We've just programmed nearly $200 million US dollars to upgrade our regional hospitals through the Inter-American Development Bank, put in the best facilities, school buildings, hospitality institute, scholarship programs. All of these things would help the new economy to function and improve people's lives. So I want to cut it short because
Yes.
I don't want to go on all the infrastructure projects.
I know we can go on and on about the infrastructure, but hey, listen, we're from Berbice, myself and Roshan, so thank God for the PPP that built that bridge for Berbice so the Barbician could come to the
bridge would have never been built.
Exactly. Roshan, I know you got a couple more questions. I know Dr. Jagdeo will take maybe one or two more questions before we close up, so I'm going to let Roshan ask some.
Yeah, and I know the time is running short as well. So the question we have this is a multi-part question, I guess, and so one is there seemed to be an issue with the blackout situation in Guyana, where lots of folks who are experiencing blackout is also experiencing equipment in their homes being damaged. So the question is, what is there anything being done about the blackout situation? And for folks who are possibly losing their equipment due to the blackout, can anything be done about that? Maybe reimbursement.
To the Utilities Commission and file complaints.
To the Police Commission.
Not just about that, but also about the quality of internet service too, because the Public Utility Commission should take care of that. Consumers' concern. That's the regulatory body for these agencies. So although it's government owned, they still have to comply with regulations and standards. Now the blackout situation, the transmission lines are in a sad state. And that's one. And then we had issues with generation. We had to buy 10 megawatts of emergency power for the Christmas season, etc., because you realize that from 2015 to 2020, APNU never put in a major power plant, baseload power plant, in spite of the growing demand. So they were just running on the old units we left. Now we're about to install, and that will come on stream by June, 46 megawatts. That's the plant that they bought, that they paid for it and then didn't or utilized money in the period when they lost the elections to pay for this plant, and then didn't do the preparatory work, the foundation work to bring the plant and install it. So we are doing that now. But until we address the grid, we're getting more problems with these connections and the grids, etc. It's overloading the system. But so we'll have to do this. Electricity is crucial. Cheaper power, reliable power. Where people don't have blackouts, crucial. And if people are losing things, they should go and complain to the Public Utilities Commission. They should do that. File a claim against VPN.
Okay, very good. And this other question from the diaspora, people who are in the real estate business. So they asked the question, is Guyana interested in a platform designed to increase revenue into the government, streamlining real estate transaction, title, transport, and things like that, where the infrastructure modernize, enhance, and things like that can be available, or can be, to the diaspora and people who want to come into Guyana to do things like that?
Well, I addressed that right at the beginning. I said the entire architecture, legislation, procedures of dealing with that, moving it into an industry. Now, the real estate sector into an industry. It used to be buying and selling homes. It was an industry. But now with the big demand of oil and gas sector and people are paying like maybe an average house $5,000 per month rental, US dollars per month rental and stuff like that, then it becomes more of a need to transition it into a business. So yeah, definitely we're doing work in that area.
Thank you for addressing that. And I'm going to ask Romeo to ask any last question he has as well. And then we would sign off with you giving any final words or any final message that you would like to deliver to the people of Guyana and the diaspora. And if you can sort of also make mention a little bit about Guyana position and what's happening in St. Vincent as well.
Thank you, Roche. Dr. Jagdeo, I want to thank you very much for coming on today. You've answered many questions that the people have, and I'm hoping we can do this sometime in the future again. And again, on behalf of myself, the New York PPP group the support group that support Guyana and the party, we want to thank you very much, everyone from the group, myself and Roshan. So again, thank you very much, and you will have the last saying on this.
And I have to say, as our Vice President close off the program for us today. We love our country, Guyana, and the best of everything, including the fruits, are there. And we're looking forward for those folks who I see a lot of questions asking about coming to Guyana, traveling to Guyana, and being there. It is a safer place because of the government who is in place today, and I am certainly looking forward to be there end of this month.
Me too.
Yeah, then, all right, that's good. And on the St. Vincent, it's a real tragedy, and we are doing all we can to help. I was with President Ali when we spoke with Ralph Gonzalez, so we discussed what sort of help we can give. We have nationals in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're keeping a constant watch over what's happening there. I've personally spoken to the Honorary Consul in St. Vincent, Nigel Russell, about 4 times in the past several days to see that our people are okay. So we will keep assisting as much as we can, and the situation is evolving. We don't know what will happen ultimately, but it's really sad what's happening there. It's been very disruptive to the lives of people, and coming on the heel of the pandemic, it's even worse. I spoke with Prime Minister Motley. Barbados is seeing some of the fallout from it, the ash and everything else. So even there, it may affect tourism in Barbados, which has been the mainstay of that economy. So we are in for a rough period in the region, many of our countries, and our solidarity is with them. So we do all we can. And I was very pleased to be on the program too. I think a lot of information, because we are so busy in government every day trying to put together plans for the 5 years and working to resolve a lot of issues that have not gotten attention for several years, the entire afternoon tenure. Sometimes the people out there who they're not with the national project. They come, some of the gripers, I call them, they're back at work again. And they don't have to be factual. And we don't get out often and give explanations. So I think we need to do a bit more of this. It's just that people need to be a bit patient and to also find out for themselves. Just read a bit more. If you read just a little bit more and do research, you'll find out how a lot of those arguments are. And whilst we're sharing information, it's my request of your viewers that they also do a bit more work on a lot of these things. Read a bit more, try to get a broader view of what's happening in our country. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jagdeo.
By the way, we are moving aggressively on this diaspora unit. It's been staffed now. There are lots of things, a conference planned in a couple of months' time, a diaspora conference. There are going to be some internships, a whole range of stuff. But I don't want to address that now because we have an entire diaspora engagement plan, and it has just started being rolled out now.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Jagdeo, and thank you for being on the program.
And we're looking forward to have you in the program again and address other questions later on.